Hello, my name's Fran Haynes. I'm an assistant head teacher here at Durrington, and this short video is designed to give you some advice and guidance on how you can support your child with reading at home. So, first of all, just to make it clear why reading is really important, and it's important for your child to do it as much as they possibly can, because it provides us with the building blocks, not just for being successful at school, but way beyond school as well. So being able to read and access information through reading is what gives you a much better life chances. So the chance of having a fulfilling career and a rewarding life and being part of society. So we take reading really seriously here at Durrington. And what I'm going to do in this video is share some approaches with you that you can do while your child is at home during this lockdown period to make sure that that focus on reading is sustained as much as possible. So to start with, we need to think about reading, 3 different types of readings. There's independent reading, where your child will sit and read silently to themselves. There's reading aloud to themselves, so your child reading out loud, but there's also your child hearing a text being read to them. And these are 3 types of reading that they will be exposed to and take part in at school, and we'd really like it if they could continue practicing these 3 types of reading at home. But we are aware that it is more difficult. So these tips and bits of advice are designed to try and make it a bit easier for you and give you some ideas about how you can integrate it into life at home. So if we take the first type of reading, independent reading, so this is where your child is sat reading something to themselves. Now, you know, we talk about reading books, and obviously that's really important, but it's really useful for a child to be reading anything really. So it could be magazines, it could be newspapers, and if your child's not a child that would perhaps naturally choose reading as something to do when they've got some spare time, it's absolutely fine to give them reading material on things that they're already interested in. So magazines about sports, or magazines about some hobby that they've got or an interest, or a newspaper article about a famous person that they're interested in. It doesn't really matter as long as they are reading something. If you've got a child who is already quite an avid reader and enjoys reading, then we would suggest that you challenge them a little bit and perhaps make some suggestions for other things that they could try. So you've got to really have a think about where your child's at. But if they're a child that doesn't really choose reading as an activity of choice, just let them read anything that they want. It's absolutely fine. They'll still get loads and loads of benefit from doing that. So ways to encourage independent reading at home, so reading silently to themselves, is to create a home environment where choosing to read is really easy and really attractive. So you can do this by making books and magazines and other reading materials as easy as possible to access. So have them around the house, have bookshelves, have them on the tables, have a book or something to read in every room, and then they're much more likely to pick it up and start reading it. Also, as a parent or carer, you've got a really important role in showing that reading is valued. It's something that's valued in your home. So when you've got time on your hands, perhaps model or demonstrate that you would choose to use that time to read rather than doing something else to pass your time. So that's not to say that every time you've got a spare hour or so, you should spend it reading. But sometimes you should show that that's an option. So instead perhaps of watching TV or playing on a computer game or whatever, you choose to read instead. But modelling that would be really powerful. And the other way, again, if you've got a child who perhaps doesn't see themselves as a reader, you can create a practical social need to read. So the need to read something. So you're about to go and do something, or you need to fix something in your home, or a problem's come up, or anything that you're already talking about. If you provide your child with an opportunity to read about it, it gives them a purpose. And people are much more likely to sit down and read something if they're getting something from it, if they know there's a purpose, there's a reason, and they're looking for something in that text. So those are 4 easy ways to kind of encourage independent reading whilst your child is at home for the next few weeks. reading aloud. So this might seem quite unusual. We're used to, sort of, most of us know that we read aloud to really, really young children. It's really common for younger children. Lots of parents and carers do it at home, and certainly they do it a lot in primary school, but it's not used so much with older children or teenagers. But it is incredibly valuable for the young person to engage in reading aloud through two different ways. So the first way that I'm going to talk about is the young person, your son or daughter, reading out loud themselves, and why it's really, really useful for a student to read out loud, to read a text out loud themselves, is it develops something that we call prosody. And prosody is the intonation and the rhythm that you use when you're speaking, and that sort of helps to create meaning. So when students read out loud, they're practicing their prosody, they're practicing how it sounds out loud, and that can really help with more demanding text, more academic text, because it helps students to make links between different ideas. So having the young person read something out loud themselves rather than just to themselves silently is really effective. Now, this is probably a bit tricky to achieve at home, because you might feel that it's unlikely that your child is going to sit and read their sort of resources that they've been sent out loud to you. So you can achieve it, I think, by stealth in a way. So you can just ask your child to read something out to you as you complete another task around the home. So I don't know, maybe after tea you're doing the washing up and they're sat at the kitchen table doing their work, and you can ask them just to read out the things that they've been sent because you're interested in it and you'd like to listen to it. And so by stealth, you're getting them to practice that reading aloud. You might have a child that's really happy to read out loud with you, in which case that's great. But if not, kind of doing it in a laid back, relaxed way. I'm really interested, can you read it out to me? Then asking them a few questions about what they've just read to you. You might find that that's a really effective strategy. Okay, and the third one is reading aloud again, but in this scenario, I'm talking about the adult, so you as the parent or carer reading a text aloud to your child. And again, we're really used to this with young children. Primary schools do it an awful lot. Lots of parents and carers do it with their little children and their toddlers. But it's really, really, really effective for older students as well, for teenagers as well. And why it's really effective for older students is if you read a text aloud to them, it means they can access that text and the content and the information even if they couldn't read it themselves. So they can access information that's well beyond what they can read on their own. So it's hugely beneficial. It's really beneficial for older students. So for example, if you feel able, you could read an article from a science journal or a magazine, or 19th century fiction. So there's some of the things that we read aloud to students in school, where the reading itself is quite challenging and it might be a bit of a barrier. So by reading it ourselves, we're ensuring that the students can engage with the ideas in the text and the reading doesn't stop them from taking part. So as teachers, we will be reading aloud via video for some lessons. So we'll cover that element with your student. But if you feel you're able to, you could do that as well. You could find some more academic texts or some more complex texts and read them aloud with your child at home, and then ask them questions about it, and so on. So those are the three main strategies for reading that it would be really useful, really beneficial for your child if they could engage in those in any way they can when you're at home with them, as much as you can, as much as you feel possible. Now, if you think that your son or daughter hasn't really got access to reading material, they can get it through school, okay? So they need to go on the website. This is our library webpage. They can go to the Access It symbol, which is in red up here. I've circled it in red. And then, let's go back. And then they can start looking around there, and they can contact Miss Baker in the library, and I'm sure she'll be able to help them out with some recommendations and some suggestions for fiction books that they could read. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. If you've got any further questions, that's my email. Feel free to drop me an email anytime and I can give you some more specific support if you've got any questions about your particular child. Okay, thank you.